Yeah. Yeah. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. It's a little after 10. All right, we're gonna our December workshop. Again, this is for regs 6 through 15. A few of the changes we made, and we're open to any comments that you have on any changes you would like to see from regs 6 through 15. I'm going to start off with public comment. Again, this is just the open general public comment. In between each reg, we're going to open up another public comment for that specific reg. So if you have any public comments outside of those regs, again, feel free to come up.
Deputy Director Miles, I'm going to read the online info.
Please do.
To provide public comment via telephone, call 669-444-9171. Enter webinar ID 842-5954-5191, followed by passcode 019419.
It doesn't look like we have any public comment down here. We'll give you a couple minutes and know if you have any public comment online.
There is no one on the line at this time. If anyone joins, I'll let you know.
Okay, thanks. And move on to agenda item number 2, which is the proposed amendments to our NCCRs. Before we get started, again, I'll introduce myself, Michael Miles, Deputy Director at Cannabis Compliance Board. I'll have my other panel members. Good.
Tara Cronkite, Chief of Health and Safety.
Emily Bordelove, Senior Deputy Attorney General for CCB.
All right. And we'll get started on Reg 6. First, we'll go through a quick summary of our changes on Reg 6, and then we'll open up to public comment.
The first one.
I can start.
Emily will handle the first one, and then good.
So the first one, 6.035 on confidentiality. The changes here are just meant to reconcile the changes for NRS 678-470 with statute NRS 670B-650. So it's all in one place, and it can be referenced for the information of the personal information for owners, officers, board members, receivers, and names and other PII for the agent card holders. That one.
Tara Cronkite, NCCR 6.072 provides allowances for employees to begin work during the training process, as well as requires training on the use of the seed-to-sale tracking system, as well as procedures for handling cannabis. 6.075 adds specific training requirements to the policies and procedures that a facility must maintain. This was required during the last legislative session. 6.080 adds weight of concentrates in grams and also harvest batch number to the requirements for inventory documentation. It also clarifies what is meant by the manufacturing process. 6.085 clarifies security requirements and increases the backup video storage time from 5 minutes to 60 minutes. 6.100 clarifies that combining lots must not occur prior to testing. This is a current requirement, but this just adds clarity. 6.120 requires establishments to maintain advertisement documentation for 5 years if determination is made by the audience that the audience is under 21. I understand that's already in statute, so there was public comment about that. We could just simply remove it if that solves that issue. This section also clarifies advertising cannabis as free without purchase in the same transaction. There were questions as to when a purchase, the time frame of a purchase. So we wanted to clarify that it's in the same transaction. And that's everything for NCCR 6.
All right. Again, we appreciate the written public comments. Definitely appreciate it. If you have public comment and don't have a written comment, please go ahead and submit it. It'll help us look at it and determine what language to use if we want to make any changes. But let's open this up to public comment. Anybody want to come up and start on Regulation 6? Go for it. At least more people are here than just you this time.
I'm doing MJ BizCon. My name is Lake Martin. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Nevada Cannabis Association. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments. We provided written comments, so I try not to duplicate too much of what I said there. But with respect to the training requirements, it's 6.072. We do want to, again, ask the CCB to make free basic training available for agent card holders to enable a minimum standard of training across the industry. That would be so beneficial to have online asynchronous training available for folks who are working in smaller companies and large companies to access the minimum requirements that are set forth in 6.072. We also noted the requirement that all employees be trained in the seed to sale tracking system is both unclear and unnecessary. There are many employees who never touch the system. And we'd also appreciate clarification on what is meant by the board's training requirements beyond what's already included in regulation, because it says it adds that the board's training requirement, but it doesn't spell out what that is. 6.085, I know there are folks here who are going to speak to the likely expense required, or that this would require these camera upgrades. They'll be expensive. The benefit is unclear. For example, requiring continuous coverage removes the ability to use motion-based recording, which many operators will have to replace equipment. The directive that cameras account for the changing height and density of plants has also caused confusion. I received a lot of questions like, what does that mean? And some cultivators have recently told that they need to convert to infrared cameras, which do emit light that could disrupt plant growth. So there's just a lot of confusion about that section. And so having a discussion, whether it's here or after, about does the potential benefit outweigh what's likely to be thousands of dollars in cost. And we have some cultivators here, I think, who can speak to more of what they expect that to cost. And we could provide even more data of the potential costs once we have a little bit more clarification of what is meant by that section. But just ask that you to consider the likely expense.
Jump on that real quick.
I'll respond to all of them, I think, when she's done.
All right.
If that's okay.
No, that's fine.
Okay. I have a whole list.
Okay. The changes to the advertising restrictions, you spoke to this in 6.120. It does look like the intent is to mirror NRS 678B520, but the language is slightly different. It's just different enough to be confusing.
Yeah.
So I would say either, strike the whole section and just go with what's in statute, or mirror the language exactly, I think would solve that problem. That's all I have on 6.
Okay, so regarding your comments for 6.072, so technically all employees utilize the seed to sale system in some form or another, whether through tagging, assignment tracking, verifying things are tagged, performing activities that have to be reported by the authorized users. They have to receive training because they physically handle cannabis, and that directly impacts the accuracy, traceability, and overall compliance of the inventory records, even if they aren't the ones that are entering it in the system. So there is a specific training for all agents that have no access to the system in the Metric Learn platform. So there is one specific to people who don't go into Metric, but are still indirectly impacting that seed to sales inventory.
And can they access it without having a Metric login?
That's a good question.
Like, I can't go in and watch the Metric trainings because I don't have a Metric login.
Is Kyoki still here? Yeah. Do they need a Metric login? No, they don't need a Metric login. And if you have questions on how to do that, Miss Allen is in the back of the room and can provide guidance on that. If not. Okay. And then for the camera requirements, motion sensors are okay. We were not intending to remove that allowance in any way, shape, or form. So hopefully that alleviates that concern. Our concern is that what happens is sometimes they turn off their cameras completely. So that's what is meant by continuous, that it's able to continuously monitor and that they're not turning it off. So if there is motion, it would capture the motion.
So we consider motion detectors continuous.
Okay.
And then for the cameras, they can't be blocked by plants. Just like in a walk-in cooler, you can't put boxes in front of your cameras. They should account for that really when they're building out their facility, that the plant height and density is going to change, maybe a dome camera or whatever they need to do. But if they just move their camera up during higher growth periods or whatever they need to do, that would be totally acceptable. We just want to make sure that they're not saying, oh, well, we were approved for this when our plants were 2 feet tall, but now they're 10 feet tall. So that was the intention with that one. Not that they need to physically change anything. And then the low light monitoring is a current requirement. Whether they use infrared, green light, whatever they want, that is a total business decision. We don't require red lights. I know a lot of facilities use a green light, low light, so it doesn't impact those plants. And if they're not going in the room, there shouldn't have to be any light being emitted. So I hope that helps.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Sorry if I stole your thunder.
No, not at all.
The 6.08, yeah, okay. We go first.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Kimberly Maxton Rushton with the law firm Cooper Levins, appearing on behalf of RSR Analytical Labs.
And Bruce Burnett, one of the principals of ACE Analytical Laboratory, appearing on behalf of ACE Analytical Laboratory, but also calling to your attention that the seven of the 8 labs, everyone but Katja, submitted through Adam Fulton a paper that was meant for today's hearing.
So what we were questioning is the removal of the exemption under Reg 6.080 subsection 7. My hope is that it is a step to really narrowly tailor each of the respective regulatory sections. This one dealing with obviously production and distribution, or excuse me, production, yes, but Reg 11 specific to the independent testing labs has its own inventory type system. And so the exemption always made sense here because when you look at the definition of cannabis establishment, it includes an independent testing lab. And yet these requirements aren't applicable to the labs. So again, we'd ask for further clarification of that, or again, if the intent was just simply to acknowledge the fact that this requirement isn't, or this section of the regs wasn't specific to the labs and that otherwise it's captured under Reg 11. And if we need to develop better inventory standards under Reg 11, I think that that's a viable discussion and a workshop matter that we can certainly move forward with. But again, here the concern is that now you're requiring the labs to adhere to standards that really aren't applicable to them.
Basically, you're gonna similar, same thing.
Very similar comment.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I already spoke with both of you briefly this morning, and I understand that's not the intent. I would echo everything that Kimberly just said. I think the lab stuff should be dealt with within Reg 11, but specifically this exemption, if it's removed, unless everything else underneath it is changed, it makes all those other conditions applicable to the lab, which then creates a whole nother set of problems. If there's an issue with some labs when they're being visited, not having unaccounted for cannabis within them, that I think is much better dealt with within Reg 11 rather than trying to remove the exemption for labs that occur in 6.0807 and then fix all the other problems underneath it. So the exemption, the reason it was here, it's been deliberate and long-standing. It's been there forever because labs basically are not cultivation, production, and dispensary facilities, and we don't buy, sell, or distribute. All we do is produce a COA, and we are the only establishment. We are totally different than all the other establishments from the standpoint that we either dispose of or destroy 100% of the cannabis product that we have. Nobody else does that. And we have an entirely different set of inventory requirements under LIMS and ISO requirements and all the other requirements that are being discussed in the revamped R152-24 Reg 11 that's being heard now in January. And I think that's the more appropriate place to deal with that. It was the 6.080 was always intended to be for cultivation and production facilities. And quite frankly, I believe that's where it should stay. Labs should be exempt from that. And if there's an inventory issue with finding cannabis in laboratories that isn't accounted for within their LIMS or within their metric system, well, there probably is, I'd have to look, and you may know off the top of your head, there's probably some violation in Reg 11 of that already. And that's where it ought to be dealt with. And if not, beef up Reg 11 and say, everything must be able to be accounted for. I mean, I know we are. We have sample laying around that you guys told us we have to hold, and we ask, 6 months later, no, continue to hold it, and then finally we get a thing where we can destroy it.
All right.
Anyway, and there's written comments submitted on both of these.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Chief Cronkite for the record. We were looking at adding a line, something like as applicable to the type of cannabis maintained in its inventory, but I'll take a look at Reg 11 and see if there's somewhere that it would be more appropriate to fit separate from the other facility requirements. But you're correct, Bruce. The intention was some facilities have used that exclusion just to claim that they don't need to keep all their samples that are in their inventory in the metric system. And so we wanted to remove that argument and clarify. So we'll find the best place to put that language that's very clear that the laboratories only have to maintain what they have on site in the metrics seed to sale tracking system.
Within your metric and your limbs, everything should be accounted for.
Yes.
I always thought,
Should be is the key phrase to that.
well, they put in Reg 11 it must be. Use the word, not may and not, use the word must.
Well, and to your point, Chief, I think as we continue to have the discussion relative to SB 157, we're going to have to talk about, holding and the quantities there and if it's going to be returned. So all of those things are specific to the inventory that the labs maintain and their practices. So again, I think it's important to maintain those specifics under Chapter 11. I understand, as I indicated before, why that exemption was in here, because when you look at just the general definition of cannabis establishment, so if we can modify that language, but we can certainly work on it and come back to you perhaps next week with some language that I think may be consistent with what the intent is.
That'd be wonderful.
Good. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Next day.
Anybody else have any comments on Regulation 6? Sarah, any comments online?
There's no online comment.
All right. We're going to move on to Regulation 7.
Kara Cronkite for the record. NCCR 7.015 clarifies when and how IDs must be verified. We did receive some public comment as to whether a manual check of the ID means a visual inspection of the ID. I would like to confirm, yes, that is correct. Just physically checking with your hands and eyes to compare to the face that you are looking at to verify that that is the same person is what we mean by manual. And then also the comment to require authentication of the ID at point of entry. You can authenticate the ID either at point of entry or point of sale. It's not specific. It just needs to be done at some point. But you can't verify that the person is 21 or over without looking at their ID upon entry at some point. So that was the intention here. That's all.
All right. And again, all Reg 7 is also open. If anybody wants to make any additional comments or suggestions, feel free, but let's open up to comment on Reg 7.
Hi again, Lake Martin, Nevada Cannabis Association. You addressed my question regarding the manual inspection and whether that was a visual inspection. I raised this in our written comment as well, and I know that Wild had raised it in the hearing 2 weeks ago, but with respect to 7.030, I think that the drafting change might have changed the meaning of brand and merchandise. And so in the June 2024 regulations, brand and merchandise and cannabis-related accessories were separated, both allowed to be sold in stores, but they had different requirements. And so the later version of the draft in October 2025 put branded accessories under cannabis-related accessories, branded merchandise under cannabis-related accessories. And cannabis-related accessories have certain requirements like can't have fruit. As Wild pointed out, I think accurately, that's a change. And branded merchandise should be separated back out or guidance issued or something to indicate that it is not intended that branded merchandise fall under cannabis-related accessories.
Absolutely. We can look at that.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chris Anderson with Solid Consulting on behalf of E-Management Group LLC. We submitted a very short draft comment on curbside regulations, NCCR 7.060. I just wanted to explain a little bit about where that's coming from. With generational trends, a lot more consumers are looking for contactless experience, and looking to give consumers a wide range of options for how they order and pick up their goods. We've seen this change a lot in other retail environments, and hopefully it makes sense here. I think that program has come a long way since it started during the pandemic. I don't know if that was initially the reasoning behind no on-site ordering, but
It was.
hopefully the time has passed. So other than that, I just let my recommendation stand for itself unless you have any questions.
Kara Cronkite, I think that's a very reasonable recommendation. The intention was to limit interaction during a period of quarantine. So you're correct.
All right. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments on Regulation 7? Sarah, we have any comments online on Regulation 7?
There is no online comment.
We're going to move on to Regulation 8. We have no changes ourselves. We're making Regulation 8, but does anybody have any recommendations or requests they want to make towards Regulation 8? Doesn't look like it out here. Sarah, anything online?
Nothing online.
All right. Let's move on to Regulation 9. Again, we have no changes making in particular to Regulation 9, but if there's any recommendations or suggestions to Reg 9, please feel free. 9.
Morning. Director Miles and Chief Cronkite, thanks for the opportunity today. My name is Tyler Klimas. I'm the principal of Leaf Street Strategies, and I'm here on behalf of Terpene Belt Farms and Nexus Agriscience. They're a leading provider of hemp-derived terpenes that serve operators in state markets across the U.S., including here in Nevada. So we're here to propose an addition to NCCR 9.025. This is related to ingredients for cannabis products. In our conversations with state regulators across the U.S., we know that having a deeper insight, complete understanding of the composition of ingredients that are being used in state-regulated cannabis products is top of mind for regulatory agencies. We also know that as the industry expands, there are more options and formulations for ingredients, including varying processes in which these ingredients and flavorings are produced. As a leading manufacturer of steam distilled terpenes, we also understand the importance of ensuring that ingredients and flavorings are of the highest caliber, the highest quality, and that great effort should be taken to ensure that these ingredients are safe for their intended use. So in that vein, we have proposed an addition to NCCR 9.025 that would introduce an attestation requirement to ensure ingredients and terpenes are in compliance with Nevada's laws and regulations around source, processing, and format. This attestation process is in use in varying degrees in other state markets. It is a requirement solely placed on the ingredient provider, not on any in-state manufacturer or operator, other than ensuring the document is received, and places no additional administrative burden on the CCB. This attestation, which would be prescribed by this board and required to be submitted to the cannabis production facility alongside the flavorings and ingredients that are delivered, will ensure that there is documented proof that these ingredients comply with Nevada law and regulation. The attestation would sit on record with the production facility and be presented only by request of the CCB for any reason deemed necessary by the agency. The attestation would also serve to protect Nevada licensees by asserting accountability on the ingredient provider that these ingredients are in compliance, especially in cases of adverse events or compromised product. We feel strongly this is a common sense solution that helps regulators, Nevada cannabis operators, and the consuming public. It also ensures Nevada regulated cannabis products remain those of the highest quality and that products are made compliantly and with the health and safety of the consuming public in mind. So we submitted the change. It's on the record. And with that, thank you for your consideration today. We're open to any questions you have. Happy to continue these discussions with any interested stakeholders and the CCB as you move through the workshop process.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks.
Thanks for your time. Any other comments, suggestions, or exchanges on Reg 9? All right, Sarah, anything online?
There's no online comment.
All right, going to move on to regulation 10. Again, we have one change we're making to regulation 10.
Eric Cronkite for the record. NCCR 10.080 takes language from guidance and incorporates it into regulations regarding disposal requirements and notifications to the CCB. We did receive public comment regarding root balls, and we did have in our guidance to render root balls unusable, that they just must be fully separated from the stalk. But I understand that I don't see that from a first glance in 10.080. So that is something that we'd be happy to incorporate if that's helpful to the industry. And that's all we have for NCCR 10.
All right. Again, that's our one change. If anybody has any comments on that or any other changes or recommendations they want to make to Reg 10 or to Reg 10, please step forward.
Wait for guidance to actually.
Correct. We're not actually
exactly.
changing anything.
Yes. Any online comment, Sarah?
Nothing online.
Let's double check down here again. Any other comment on Reg 10? Okay. Move on to Reg 11. Again, we're going to have a lot of other discussions on Reg 11, especially for SB 157. However, if you have any comments, recommendations, or changes you'd like to see to Regulation 11, again, please come forward and make public comment. Everybody's waiting for the next time. Anything online, Sarah?
Nothing online.
Great. Let's move on to Regulation 12. This packaging and labeling, we have a few changes we're making, or we're requesting to make.
Eric Cronkite for the record. We are proposing changes to NCCR 12.010. This would increase package limits for pills or capsules to 1,000 milligrams per package. 12.015 includes the prohibition of an anthropomorphic image on packaging as incorporated into statute during the last legislative session. And 12.070 does the same for advertising with the anthropomorphic image. That is all.
All right. Again, any comments that you want to make on these proposed changes or any other proposed changes you would like to see made, please come up and make public comment. Nothing on Reg 12? All right. Sarah, any comment online?
Nothing online.
Thanks. All right, let's move on to Reg 13. Again, we have no changes we're proposing to make on Reg 13. But again, it's open to comment. If anybody would like to make any comments on changes they would like to see made to Regulation 13, please come forward. Sarah, anything online?
Nothing online.
All right. No comment here, nothing online. We'll move on to Reg 14. Again, we have no changes, proposed changes we're looking to make on Regulation 14. But again, we're opening to the public. Anybody who would like to see any changes made to Regulation 14, please feel free. Come forward. Looks like there's nothing down here. Sarah, anything online?
Nothing online.
All right, let's move on to Regulation 15. Again, we have no changes we're proposing to make to Regulation 15, but if there's any changes anybody would like to see made to Regulation 15, please come forward and make public comment. Good, quick and easy. All right, looks like we have no comments down here. Sarah, anything online?
There's no one online to provide comment.
Great. All right, we'll close out agenda item number 2 and move on to the final public comment period. Again, anybody who wants to make public comments, please come forward. All right, we have nothing down here. Anything online, Sarah?
Nothing online.
Great. Let's move on to item number 4, adjournment. Thank you very much. Again, really appreciate all of you coming and paying attention to these and making comments. It really, really does help us a lot. So again, thanks for your time.